So we're starting our Flint podcast. Neil Howman.
Hello. We are. Very exciting time, I think, and not before time, I would say.
No. Yeah. We're a month into the Flint.
We are.
Almost a little over exactly a month since we officially launched at the beginning of October 4th, I think it was.
It seems to have flown by. I don't know what your thoughts are on that, Neil, but
yeah, it really has, because we did the preview newsletter. So kind of starting because you came to me at the beginning. It feels like it was like the beginning of September, end of August.
It felt like a summer tale, because all I recall is conversation. You very generously kind of leaving all of your ideas, like in a briefcase on a train.
Yeah.
Handed it over to us and said, "I'm going on holiday to the United States," which we'll return to later, perhaps in our conversation, the United States. But and then you disappeared for 2 weeks, and that must have been August time, surely.
Yeah, that's right. So that was the middle of August, the end of August. That's right. And then so I came back in August because it was right before IBC time, and then we said, "Let's do the Flint." It was almost that simple, basically.
Let's do it right here. It's like putting a play on or something. Let's do it here. Let's do it now.
My mom can make the costumes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I could build a set with a piano and things. But no, it all seems. But if you'd have told me that had happened 2 weeks ago, I'd have also believed you, because it's just sort of been a very fast timeline. But I think once we sort of got the basic plan to do it right now, let's do it. We used IBC, didn't we, as that sort of testing ground a little bit, saying, guys, this thing's coming. We think it's a really good idea. We love what various people in the industry are doing. That's the media and entertainment industry, by the way.
Yeah, by the way, if you've dialed in from a different industry.
Just thought we should flag it up, just in case there were people in sort of shoe retail had joined or something.
Yes, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, but it's been a whirlwind, hasn't it? I think that's
it has.
Media.
Yeah, so we did that. Well, coming into that IBC, there was a lot of great opportunity there, because they were doing the Changemakers program, and that I was brought on to moderate one of the sessions there as the Flint. So we were like, "Oh, we're the Flint. We're here to help the industry with sustainability." Yeah. And they're like, "Oh, come on in." So it was great to sort of see, kind of off the bat, people like recognize what we were doing and going, "Okay." And then we had that spell then right after that IBC. So it was like September. I guess we started it before then, didn't we? But that preview newsletter. So we sent out a newsletter that was going out every week that was kind of just collection of stories and links, basically, about sustainability around the industry.
Yeah, I thought that was a really good way to sort of pave the way, wasn't it? And then, like you say, we used IBC, and it was very gratifying, actually, because you had that great opportunity, which was already in place, to present yourself as the editor of the Flint, which I thought was a great opportunity. We had an opportunity to address the Greening of Streaming's collective, to talk about the Less Accord, which is a very, I think, important initiative in that aspect of the industry. And then, like you say, afterwards, we had to kind of collate all the conversations we'd had, which were great and varied, and ended up in places that we... personally, I didn't, you'd start in one place just talking about, hey, what products are you, and it would go in all sorts of interesting directions, which was really interesting to me, because that was exactly what, certainly my concept of what we should be doing was about. The human aspect, I think, is what I'm sort of talking about.
Because IBC, for those who may not know what IBC is, and there's like some absolutely do and some do not, but IBC is International Broadcasting Convention. but gigantic, mostly kind of broadcast technology trade show that is held annually in Amsterdam, and it's so all the vendors are there. It's huge, so everybody's there. So it was great to kind of just get to be able to see lots of people at once, and then get the vibe. And we did have those things that were, as you said, it's like really good conversations with people who were talking about, well, I don't really have a sustainability story, and then you start digging in there, and then they start talking about COVID and kind of how they had to transform their business around COVID. And, we developed all these new human resources and kind of well-being projects that we hadn't thought of before COVID. And that whole transformation, which is what we talk about around sustainability. It's not just environment, but that whole big transformation was really came up once you started talking to people.
I'm very glad, actually, that you flagged up the fact that, certain people who may be listening or watching this may not quite know what IBC is, because, of course, our remit, as it were, maybe overly ambitious, we'll see, is really across the whole media and entertainment piece. And, of course, IBC only focuses on the sort of broadcast technology aspect. I say only, it's a massive area, but it's not the complete sweep of what we're going to be looking to cover here. But it was a very interesting and useful exercise in taking the temperature, having those conversations, and being able to let people know what we are trying to achieve here. So that was,
absolutely.
Feels like a long time ago to me.
It does. And then we launched, and we got the website up on that first week in October, and it's been ticking over since. I think it's mostly kind of getting up to cruising altitude.
I think so. Yeah, we're gathering ahead of steam now. I think it's been very exciting, and it is sort of we're just a birthing of the Flint, as it were, and we're like you say, getting up to that sort of into that routine as well, which I think is important. The weekly newsletters and getting content, and I think we're really very much now on the content hunt, aren't we? We've had some really interesting conversations, and things are beginning to happen, and exciting times. And
we've got, because we're getting the launch partners in, and that has even after a month, it's gone quite well. So we've got like the Greening of Streaming is our first partner. So they're doing they'll be doing their a monthly update for their members, and also just using us for to send out their info and bits and pieces and stuff. But it's great that they'll actually be doing content for us around that. around specifically video delivery. So that's Greening of Streaming as an organization that focuses on making video delivery more efficient. And that also includes the whole streaming and then cloud angle, which is as a real jungle, and we don't know as much about it as you would think. So Greening of Streaming is working really hard on that.
Just something I've observed, and what I think is worthy of applause and support on that side of things, is they also are starting from a point where they don't know. Starting from a point of not knowing is just fine in this sustainability conversation, because the point is to get to a place of knowing via the right methods, which is data-driven, doing the research, and that's what's to be applauded about some of the initiatives they're involved in. And I think that we are, from our perspective, we'd fully support that sort of approach to things, rather than just saying, "Oh, well, we're doing this and ticking a box."
I think that, and that's I hope what will distinguish the Flint from others. Is that I think I think you might agree, that we're kind of focused on the goal of transformation, or at least that idea that we want to help change happen. So it's not just a matter of kind of here's a bunch of news, here's a bunch of content, read the content, good for you. But if we can help companies and the industry to actually make the change, that's what we're about. So however that can happen, and you don't you don't start out being great when you want to change.
Exactly.
When you want to change it, so you have to analyze. Okay, what do I need help? What do I not know? And
well, going back to your observations from IBC, I picked up on that a lot. That there are many vendors, manufacturers, certainly in the broadcast space, who were very much up on this topic, very engaged with the aims of this topic, but not always so either confident or comfortable in how they might be wanting to put out information about what they're doing. You know, there is a sort of understandable anxiety that if they put out what they're doing, that they need to be seen to be complete experts in that. And
right. Course, that's it. It's like how they need to be virtuous. You know, it's not about being virtuous. It's about what you can do.
What you can contribute, I think, is the point there. So that was good. Anyway, so our other launch partner. Sorry, we've.
Oh no! So the other launch partner is Videndum, which is great because they are a. I mean, if you are in the broadcast tech space, you absolutely know them. But they do production gear that is on every set in the world. So their sub brands are like Manfrotto and Sackler, and tripods and camera support that you've seen everywhere. And then they also do batteries and monitors and a whole bunch of stuff. So they have a whole bunch of sub brands that you're like, oh, I've seen that on set. Oh, I've seen that on set. And they are really have been working quite hard on sustainability for a while. So one of their factories is in Costa Rica, and it's like super green, B Corp rated, I believe. I'll have to check on that. Facility that's solar powered in Costa Rica, and and then there's their UK facility as well, that's solar powered. And we're talking the other day to them, and they actually are, they put power back into the grid from their factory here in the UK. And of course in Costa Rica too. But they're doing some really great tech, including sodium ion batteries, which is kind of the next step forward from lithium batteries. It's really great. So we'll be helping them with some of their content, and we'll be putting out their content on the Flint. And they're just a great partner to have aboard.
Yeah, I had a question about the sodium against lithium. Is that because of a natural resources issue?
Well, it's all kinds of stuff. So I guess lithium can catch fire, as we have heard.
Yes, of course.
So it's not like it doesn't catch fire like petrol catches fire, but it still can catch fire and then keep burning. I guess it just keeps grabbing oxygen and burning. Even underwater, it keeps burning. So we'll learn more about that science and hopefully have that on the Flint. But it's also a natural resource issue that you have to keep mining lithium, and your country may not have lithium and another country may have lithium, whereas sodium ion batteries are a newer technology. And there are also variants of lithium batteries that are better. So there's kind of variants of lithium batteries. I mean, all this technology is evolving really fast, actually, all around. But that sodium it's basically salt. So
of course,
you have sodium chloride or sodium NaCa, calcium. I don't know. I don't know all the chemistry.
Was chemistry one of your things, Neil?
I did not do well in chemistry. Our chemistry teacher was also the basketball coach in my high school. So, but chemistry not so good on it. But I'm very good at, if you tell me what the chemistry is, I'm good at telling other people what you said to me.
That's a good thing. No, I just wondered what the tension was between chemistry and basketball. I thought you were going to. You just like he was also the basketball coach. Kind of ... And I'm thinking, am I meant to? Is this a U.S. high school thing?
He was a very good basketball coach. I guess he was I guess maybe I was trying to say that I didn't learn chemistry well because he was busy coaching basketball. But that's not true, because he was actually a good chemistry teacher, and it was my fault, basically.
It was all your fault.
That was my fault. It wasn't a good chemistry
student. I think we have to own our...
yeah, exactly. That's what we're about. At the Flint, we're not afraid to look our defects squarely in the face.
It was our fault.
But so sodium is everywhere. So it's like, right. And it's also very inert and safe. And also, I gather, this is from my conversations with the guys at Videndum. This is not a Videndum ad, but it's just to talk about sodium. Is that it's has a really long shelf life, apparently. So you can have it you can have your, like with lithium batteries and a lot of other batteries, if they go completely dead, they're wrecked. Right. With a sodium battery, it can go completely dead, literally be sitting on a shelf for a year, 2 years, and you can recharge it, and it's virtually as good as new. So there's has a really long life that other batteries might not have. So it's like there's a lot of benefits to it. And then so a lot of China, major manufacturers of batteries and car manufacturers are looking more towards sodium now. So that will probably start. It's in the beginning stages, but it's probably accelerate over the next, say, 5 years, and that will end up probably being the standard of some kind of sodium version.
Well, I just want to bring that, as grateful as we are to Videndum, we just want to bring that sort of Videndum piece to an end there, because it reminded me that we'd also had a very interesting call in the same sort of area with VMI.
With Barry Bassett from VMI.
Yeah, with Barry. And I was incredibly impressed with kind of from the root and branch sustainability story they've got, not just about their, business practices, but their, internal within the company practices and everything. It's it was great. It was great to see and great to learn more about, and I think we'll certainly be wanting to highlight that, because I think that there's a real educational aspect to what they're doing to, suggest tips and guidelines and guidance and suggestions to other companies out there who are really wanting to make a difference internally within where they work and how they work with each other, as well as the sort of business proposition as well. I thought that was a great call recently. That
was really good. Yeah. So VMI are they're a gear supplier, gear rental house, production gear rental house in the UK. That's Barry was just, I guess he's he's one of the sustainability guys in production and production gear. So they've really gone for it, that company. And so their website does have, as he was saying, is a lot of these free resources on the site. Just here's what we do. Here's all our case studies. Use them. So he really wants to get people to really share his experience with the industry.
Absolutely. And I would suggest that anybody listening or watching this should keep checking in on the Flint, because we're going to be covering both what Videndum are up to, which obviously and the VMI, very inspirational what they're.
Yeah, we'll put links in the show notes. So.
Yeah, let's do that. And also this, I just wanted a word about this sort of podcast idea in general. We've got some really interesting people already lined up, and we're going to be looking to do these over the next few weeks, coming months. And I think the idea really is that we want to sort of get into people's, journey to sustainability. Does that sound too... People's journey?
No, journey's good. I came here from California, so I'm all about the journey and the inner transformation and all that stuff.
But we've got a lot of really interesting and diverse people from all aspects of the media and entertainment universe, really, who got some very interesting stories to tell, and some things you might not be expecting, sort of thing as well. Already, the people I'm thinking about, and just talking about them as fully rounded human beings and what they're trying. Because I think that, like you say, Neil, that I think it's people ultimately are going to be at the heart of all of this, isn't it?
Yeah, well, because you don't have, it's not a technical fix. I mean, technology is important, but it's ultimately a personal transformation. It is that, and it is also because if you want to change things, you have to change people, and have to be willing to change yourself, which means an opportunity to do something new and completely cool. Yeah. So I think we hope that will offer that push to people to be able to think in new ways about how they work and not just have to be stuck doing the same thing that you've done over and over. That there's new ways of doing stuff now. Then we have to change what we're doing. And so it's an opportunity to rethink. If all this stuff is up in the air, which it is, over the next decade, then what do you want your industry to look like? Or what do you want your job to look like?
I think it's precisely that we're really trying to, with, great work from a whole range of people, companies, organizations around the world, it is trying to fashion that sort of media and entertainment industry for the future, I think. That's the main thing. Just one observation I've made over the past few weeks is there is still a discrepancy, I think, certainly in the broadcast tech space, I've noticed. And again, the Flint doesn't solely focus on this, but this is an area that we have kind of both come from in recent years. So we obviously sort of have a good overview of areas of that. Is that there still seems to be quite a discrepancy in the messaging I see from companies who are maybe more European based or focused against US based. Now, having said that, without damning a whole country and continent and society like that, there is lots of great pockets of work taking place, and I think people genuinely focused on this issue on the other side of the pond. But it just seems very apparent to me that in the outward-facing, the people-facing aspects of how companies kind of set themselves up and what they talk about and messaging, whether it's product-based or otherwise, there is quite a difference. To the point that it doesn't always seem apparent at all in some US companies currently. I know it's changing, but just wondered if you felt the same.
Because there are the Netflix and Disney, and there's kind of some drivers in some of those big companies kind of to do their, to have various sustainability initiatives. But and I've heard that from conversations too, just talking with people that that often in the US, it seems like if there's not a clear financial incentive, that people would be like, eh. And I was that at a I think the other day talking to somebody about, and I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me, but that in Europe and in the UK you've got this public service broadcaster tradition. So you have public service, the BBC and stuff. You've got public service broadcasters in Britain, and then also around Europe too. So that it's almost like kind of locked into the culture is you have a broadcaster and its remit is public service. So it is answerable to the citizens. And so it has to do certain things, and it has to have certain standards that if it was a purely commercial venture, it wouldn't have to. And that, I feel like that's one of the things that drives a bit more progress in the UK and Europe.
Plus I would say that there is an enthusiasm at governmental level, certainly in the EU currently, that they're already ahead on making various. Sure, the critics would say over-regulation or whatever, but I think on they've been very enthusiastic supporters of pulling everybody in that sort of direction.
And there might be also the U.S. is, which I can say as an American, tends to be much more regulation phobic than a lot of the rest of the world. And also, I think you've just got so many different so much going across the U.S. in terms of different broadcasters and local broadcasters, and each of them will have their own sort of way of doing things. And how Florida sees things would be very different from how California sees them potentially.
Absolutely so. But what I just coming back to the people point, though, it was very revealing to me. I was in a conversation with a company more in the audio space. Their name will, they will remain nameless because it's not our job to be finger pointing in that way or whatever. But trying to engage them on this conversation recently, and there was a sort of bemusement, a sort of slightly blank look, and then a light came on with this one guy, and he said, "Oh, hang on a minute," and he sort of flicked through their website for felt like several minutes, and he said, "Yeah, here it is," and they had some ESG statement on their website buried in the bowels of their website somewhere. It just got me thinking that this is just very interesting. If it were people led from within the companies, and I'm very keen to point out that there are many US companies who are really on this in a big way. But if it from the people level up, that they were more aware that this is, very core to the company philosophy, I have a feeling that it would be, people driven much more in more of the companies. But I think you're right. The weather, politically and otherwise, in Florida is different to maybe down the west coast of the United States and the New York area and whatever. Not picking on Florida, by the way. I'm sure there's lots of stuff going on.
Fine people on both sides. Not
qualified to comment further on that. I'll blame you for the comments on that, Neil.
Yeah, exactly. And I also think that as you said, people have the opportunity to have permission to rethink how they're going to do their business. But also, I think there's probably convincing that has to be why should I be interested in this ESG stuff at all? And if there's a financial case for it, okay, I'm not gonna, if it's going to boost my brand or boost my to boost my profile in some way or make me more appealing to customers. Okay, that makes sense. This whole, climate change thing, well, maybe, I don't know, but it's not really going to affect me, is it? And what can I do anyway? There's a lot of questions that you have to really address, so.
It's kind of bumping it up the list of priorities, I think, is the thing. But like you say, having the personal investment so people kind of see it and can start to own it. And it's coming back to that thing which I would like to believe is going to be the case, which is that it's sort of the sustainability aspect of the business is going to become like one of the third column of thought when making buying decisions. So, does the tech or the product work? Is it financially viable? And 3, is it a sustainable business model product?
And you do have, I think, because you have, there's less of a safety net in the U.S., and so you have people thinking, I have this gigantic medical bill I've got to pay, which is already overdue, and this other stuff is great, but I just cannot literally afford to think about it. So I think then there's sort of backlash against that, which is, I think, there's been a few sort of labor. There's been a few strikes in the industry and a few other things lately, obviously actors and writers and stuff, where there's kind of a pushback against the status quo, and then that seems to jump things ahead. So obviously now with writers and the actor strike, which is now over, they're talking about AI and talking about the future and kind of what the future workplace is going to look like. And so I think that you can sort of leapfrog then from a place where we don't care about it and nobody seems to care about it, to a place where you really sort of trying to design what your future is going to look like or what the future industry is going to look like.
And once again, we pull it back to people. It seems to come back to
it's always people.
It's people, always people. Well, we could talk all day, maybe all week, putting the world to rights. But I presume you've got some work to do.
I do. I've got some work to do on the Flint.
You got some Flint-related work to do, Neil?
I do. I have content to get up and emails to send.
Yes.
And now a podcast to publish.
A podcast to publish and heads of state to lobby.
Yes, exactly.
No doubt. So we are going to be doing this again, and I'm hoping with, as I say, a range of very interesting people. Not looking, certainly looking to try and put the world to rights slightly more than when we start, but not doing it in one go, I think is probably the best way.
Just giving people a place to tell their stories.
Yeah, which is what the Flint is doing in general anyway. So until next time, thank you, Neil.
Great, and thank you, anybody watching and listening, and sign up for the newsletter.
Please do.
The Flint.media. The Flint.media. Don't let that suffix throw you. And go to the site. There's all kinds of stuff. You can follow us on our socials, but do sign up for that newsletter.
And we'd love to talk to you about the initiatives that you're looking to put in place. Anything to do with it. So
let's start the conversation. Yeah. Okay, so I'll see you, Neil, probably within the hour. But everybody else, we'll see you next time.
Thank you.